everybody, and welcome to the Shoop and Aye-Aye-Ajay show. It's AJ Spolsky here. Recapping the Lions game on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day. Ben Shoop, how you doing today?
Pretty good, man. Excited for a little Thursday football this week. Another Thursday game. Should be a good one. I mean, I know last year when we played the Patriots in Buffalo, which this one obviously is not in Buffalo, but in Buffalo it didn't go that well. But I mean, another late season game against the Pats. Ready to talk some football, get going. We're on a 2-game win streak. Hopefully, can keep it going. But this team has been a little up and down recently. But I'm excited to talk some football.
Yeah, the on ESPN today, the Bills were actually on the falling contenders list, which is interesting because the Eagles were still given credit, for pulling out some wins, and they almost lost to a Colts team who just lost to Pittsburgh last night. So the Eagles are to consider them contenders and the Bills falling contenders after the Bills won 2 games on the road, technically, had to go back and forth against 2 pesky teams in the Browns and Lions is pretty impressive. Just your thoughts on the Lions game, how they looked, biggest takeaway from the game.
I mean, honestly, I think the biggest takeaway for me is just that the Lions are actually they got a good future, man. I think they really do. I think they're a good football team. Their record doesn't show how good they actually are. But when it comes to the Bills, my biggest takeaway is that we're actually starting to run the ball a little more. I mean, Devin Singletary, another game over 70 yards rushing. He obviously didn't lead the team. It was still Allen by 6 yards, but I mean, it's a good sign if he ends up getting 70 yards again today or Thursday. Then that marks the first time in his career that he's had three straight games with 70 plus rushing yards. So I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is just seeing we're finally actually running the ball a little more, getting everybody else involved. I mean, I know you saw James Cook. He had 2 catches and 2 rushes. Maybe it's get him a little more involved. Hines, same thing. But it's good to see more people getting involved in the offense, and it's not just Diggs, Davis, Allen running it, and then occasionally you'll see Devin Singletary in there. So that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway is just how this team, I think the Lions, deserved to win that game. I think they were a good team, winning 3 in a row, losses to the Eagles by 3, Dolphins by 4. So they have a couple close losses in that schedule. So they could, be 6-5, 6-6 right now. And the Bills, found a way to win. I think Josh in the fourth quarter was 10 for 14 for 94 yards and a touchdown, which I think was nice to see. I think he looked more like himself in that fourth quarter, which we haven't seen much of these past couple of weeks. But they moved the ball in the second half, like you said. They've been running the ball well the last couple of weeks, and hopefully that transfers over to Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, bottom line, we're in a better position than we were last year, right? We were 7-6 at one point last year. We're 8-3. I think people, after that, those two bad games, 2 losses in a row, people started to really get down on this team. Now we get 2 wins during a week that's honestly, it was a crazy week. I mean, obviously the game gets moved to Detroit Sunday against Cleveland. So the Bills fly out. I mean, I don't know, AJ, you were up in Brockport, correct? So you were
for the Cleveland game. I drove back Sunday night, so I saw it all, but I wish I was home to see it.
Yeah, so it was not exactly fun because I had to do a lot of shoveling. It was so high that I couldn't even use the snowblower. But yeah, so the game got moved. They had then 5 days later they go back again, go on Thursday, Thanksgiving football, get another win. It's a crazy week, and then now again we have a lot of illnesses this past week with the team, people not being able to practice. But yeah, so I think they fought. They did well. It was a crazy week, and they fought through it. So, now on to the Pats, right? Another divisional game, 0-2 in the division. Need it, absolutely need it. And we actually do have a special guest. I'll bring him on right now. Pierce Downey is a Pats fan. It's funny because I think it's funny because I actually in college had a Pats fan as a roommate. So one side of the room was all Pats stuff. One side of the room was all Bills. Kind of weird thing going on in that room, but it was fun. It was a good little rivalry. Pierce, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself. tell everybody where they can find you, and just give a little overview.
Thank you. My name is, like you said, Pierce Downey. You can find me on Twitter at Pats Downey. Not much else to say. All my information you can find there, and you can just shoot me a follow. I tweet about Pats. I write about the Pats. I do a lot of things about the Pats. So I've been a Pats fan my whole life, and I'm excited to talk some football.
Yeah, I mean it's been a different year for the Pats than normal, right? I mean, last in division, even though they're still a winning record. I mean, it's just how good the Pats, or how good this division is. But I mean, this defense looks for real. Your offense, I mean, last week I know you guys started to put up some points. So I'm going to start off just with a simple question. What are your initial thoughts going into this game Thursday night at Gillette Stadium? 8-3, 6-5. It's a big, big game for the Patriots. So what is your initial thoughts going into this game?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if we look at the Pats next, let me see, 1, 2. If we look at the Pats next 6 games, they play the Bills, Cardinals, Raiders, Bengals, Dolphins, and then the Bills again. And the Cardinals and Raiders, the way they've been playing, you can probably judge those as confident wins. For the Bengals, that one's going to be more up in the air, and the Dolphins probably an unlikely win. So it kind of is going to come down to both of the Bills games and the Bengals if we really want to make a shot at 9, 10, maybe 11 wins if we get lucky. But I think if the Pats want to keep the season alive and roll into the next stage, a split with the Bills is going to be pretty necessary. And I doubt they're going to be able to do it in Week 18. I think this game is going to be the one where they're going to have their best shot at beating the Bills, especially because I don't know if you mentioned it before, but their illness, their offensive line, there's a lot of gaps there, and this is going to be the best chance for the Pats to roll through and beat Buffalo.
Yeah. I mean, you guys got a good run game. Sorry, AJ, sorry to cut you off, but you guys got a good run game. And AJ, I'll let you go. Sorry to cut you off right there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question, Pierce. Are you more confident beating the Dolphins or Bills?
Tua's undefeated as a starter, where he's started and finished games. The we have a really good secondary with Jonathan Jones, Jack Jones, not really Jalen Mills, but we have a pretty good secondary. But I just don't think it's possible to contain Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle enough to beat them, especially with Tua QB, who I was not sold on as a quarterback, but he's been phenomenal this year. And I genuinely think I think the Bills are gonna be an easier team to beat. And if you told me if I told me that at the start of this season, I wouldn't believe myself or believe it. But the Dolphins are just playing incredibly with Tua at the helm, and assuming he's not injured for that game, I'm more confident with playing the Bills.
Yeah, I mean it's. I thought they would be good this year, but like you said, I didn't think they'd be this good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, their offense does look amazing.
That Ravens game, that's when it kind of hit me where I don't know what the exact numbers were, but I think Tua had like 6 passing touchdowns and an absurd amount of yards. Like it was incredible. So that's when I kind of realized that the Dolphins are legit. I don't know if Pats are going to be able to beat them, especially with their offense, which has been a little bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to ask you another question real quick. What going into this game, obviously, you just talked about the corners. You just talked about how good your defense is bad. And I really think that's like the key to the game is, can Buffalo put up enough points? Because I did see a stat saying that when the Patriots allow more than 20 points, they're 0-5. But when they allow less than 20 points, they're 6-0. So that's a crazy stat to me. So what do you think they have to do? Who do they have to shut down in order to keep the Bills, in your mind, under 20 points? And do you think that they can do it?
Well, I mean, I think the answer there is pretty obvious. It's probably the Allen, the Diggs. You just got to shut down those big names. And, Allen's been really poor in the red zone. So I think he might have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. But I do think that shutting down Allen is going to be obviously it's not going to be easy, but it's not going to be as tall of a task as it has been in past games, just because of how inefficient he's been and how he's probably lacking a little bit of confidence and stuff like that. So, but probably the obvious names, Diggs, Allen, nothing. I wouldn't say anything special. I'm not too familiar with like the lower level players who might. Oh, that's a good point. Isaiah McKenzie, the Pats. I think it might have been It was a late season game. I remember watching that, and Isaiah McKenzie torched our slot corner. It was Miles Bryant. He torched Miles Bryant. So that's, you're going to have to contain the obvious names per usual, but the one guy that I think can make or break this game, because it might be a close game, it's going to be Isaiah McKenzie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the Bills went down there last year. That was the Isaiah McKenzie game when we kind of had confidence because we knew Beasley was getting older, so we thought that maybe McKenzie could take over that position. He's had a couple good games this year. He's been kind of inconsistent, just like the rest of the Bills receiving corps besides Diggs. I think Gabe Davis could have a big game on Thursday. But I wanted to mention something just about Josh Allen, and he's struggling a little bit. The Bills always seem to play well in big games. Now, I think this is a huge game for them because of the fact that they haven't won the divisional game this year. This is a setup for 2 home games down the stretch in the next couple of weeks here against the Jets and Dolphins, where they can get right back to the tasting the 1 seed and being the leader of the division. The Chiefs have a tough game this week with the Bengals, and the Dolphins play the Niners. So those are 2 games that they could possibly lose. I just can't remember the last time that Josh Allen in a big game and in one of these, even late last season, he had his slumps. He didn't play well against Atlanta. That was a 1 o'clock. He had a couple of late against the Jets. He didn't play too well, and then there was a stretch down the middle there where, he kind of struggled. But Allen is the only quarterback to have 300 yards and 3+ touchdowns against Belichick, and he's done it 3 times.
Yep.
10 other players tied at 1. So I think Allen is poised for a big game. I think he's full in practice this week. He's getting more reps. Hopefully they don't come out as slow, and because he's been limited the past few weeks. So I think Allen, I can't tell you the last time that I've went into a big game. I think Allen's going to come out with a lot of confidence and play very poised and hopefully under control.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I mean, I guess I was taking the injury into account a little bit. He's just been, I just from watching him, you can tell something's off. And I'm pretty much, like I said, it's a big game. I would love the Patriots to win, but I really doubt that that defense is going to be able to step up against the Bills, especially from what we saw against the Vikings. So I don't think Allen's going to, throw for 100 yards and 2 interceptions and 1 touchdown. But I also don't think that he's going to be as explosive as we're used to, just because taking all things considered. He probably will be a force and lead this team to a victory, but I just don't think it's going to be humongous like what we saw in past weeks.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you on that. I don't think it'll be obviously that playoff game, that was a little something else like that. Yeah, nothing like that will happen. But I do want to bring up the fact of, obviously Diggs has had big games against the Patriots in the past, right? They've had the 3 touchdown game. He's had over 100 yards, I think, in multiple games against them. What do you think the key to shutting him down for the Patriots is? Do you think it's getting the pressure up front? Do you think it's really just playing, doubling Diggs over the top? What do you think the key is to shutting Diggs down? And do you expect them to really kind of shut him down throughout the game, or just kind of, do you think Diggs will break away at some point?
So I think the Pats, I think they have 2 options here. In one of my first articles, I think it was week 1, the Pats, they could choose to double Diggs, and not that's not really more of a. We've seen it in the past, what they've done before, where they play kind of like a cover 3, and then they'll just shift that safety to Diggs' side, and they'll kind of it's sort of a double team, but it's more just helping out that corner who's tasked with covering him. That's the first option. They did that a lot with the Dolphins in past years, but I think the most ideal scenario is just bringing up pressure on Allen so that he's going to have to get that away quickly, because you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not entirely familiar with all the people on the Bills offensive line, but they're missing, from what I saw on the depth chart, they're missing Dawkins, Doyle, Morse, probably more than that. And Matthew Judon, we've seen him in the past. We've seen him have multi-sack games. I think this is the perfect scenario for the Pats to, ease a little pressure off their secondary and put it more on Judon's shoulders and some more guys, so that they don't have to run that double team in effect and potentially get other receivers open like Gabe Davis or Isaiah McKenzie, like we talked about.
Yeah, I think this offensive line, it is a key. Deion, I don't think he's not ruled out yet. He's definitely, it's a game time. I think it's going to come down to a game time decision for Deion. But yeah, Morse, I don't believe is going to play.
He's been full in practice 2 days. Dawkins won't play. He's do not practice the last 2 days. But Morse should be good to go. He was full the first 2 days of practice. So, but it'll still be Quesenberry against Judon, which is dangerous.
And Spencer Brown has also been struggling on the other side of the line. I mean, it has been something that I think, especially that's the number one thing that scares me about this game right now is, I mean, you've seen it even the past 2 weeks. Allen's been running pretty much outside the pocket a lot of the game. It seems like a lot of times, especially towards in the second half, he really has to get out of the pocket. And it's obviously a hard thing to do is keep him in the pocket, but when he gets out of the pocket lately, like you've been saying, Pierce, is he's been trying to force those throws. He's been trying to really thread the needle, and it's been costing us. And against a defense like the Patriots defense, who knows how to turn the ball over, who knows how to really get pressure on the quarterback, it's a little concerning to me. But at the same time, hopefully we can get some more guys involved and not just have it be Diggs. AJ, I got a question for you. What do you think is the biggest key to the game for the Bills going up against the Pats this week?
I'm not too worried about the offense, honestly. I think that they, gained some confidence last week going down, getting the game-winning touchdown. Well, not game-winning, but to go ahead late. And then, obviously, the Lions tied it up. But you got to look at the fact that with 23 seconds left, Allen went on the field to Diggs and got the field goal. So I think they're going to really use that as a confidence boost. And I think Ken Dorsey, this is probably, it's another big game for him in terms of am I, using Allen the right way? Is Allen getting the ball out? Is Allen comfortable with the offense? And against the Bill Belichick defense, which, Allen struggled with early in his career. Obviously, Allen's had more success the past couple of years. But it's going to come down to, the defense, and that is pass rush on Mac Jones without Von Miller, because the Pats have a really good interior O-line, and we were playing. Ed Oliver has to play, very well. He talked in the press conference. Matt Perino asked him a few questions, and he was saying, don't worry about Von. We got 4 guys in the middle that are dogs, kind of like taking the Holloman saying, this is my D line now. We're in the middle, but the Lions had 2 backup guards, which still 1 to 53. All these guys are respected, but I think it's the defense getting pressure, making Mac Jones uncomfortable because he's not mobile, and he's not Josh Allen. He's not going to get out of the pocket and make a play. Now he'll scramble here and there, but you keep him in the pocket, get to him quick because they'll get the ball. A lot of screens, defend, get off the field on 3rd and longs. That's huge because Belichick and Patricia, they're great at screens and utilizing the running back Stevenson on those short, quick screen passes. So yeah, getting pressure to Mac, and hopefully that takes care of one side of the ball.
I'm gonna piggyback off you real quick about the 3rd and longs. Obviously, we've struggled as a team. The Bills have struggled against teams on 3rd down, 3rd and longs. And the Patriots, I saw a stat today, I believe they're 25% on 3rd downs, if I'm not mistaken. And that's one of the lowest in the league, at least over the past few weeks. They've been struggling on 3rd down. So I'm going to ask you, Pierce, what do you think about the dynamic of a Pats team that's offense that's kind of struggling on 3rd down, a Bills defense that struggles against, at least 3rd and longs, right? It's been a thing over a lot of McDermott's, I think, career you've seen, and Leslie Frazier's time in Buffalo is the 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 11s. What do you think of that matchup? Do you think the Patriots are going to be able to get the best of the Bills when it comes to the 3rd downs, even though they've been struggling? Or do you think, Buffalo is going to kind of hanker down on that and say, we need to be better at this? Obviously, I know it's a hard thing to predict, but what do you think about the 3rd downs and the matchup there?
Right. I think it'll be interesting to see because, like you said, those stats, they kind of come together. It'll be very interesting. It's going to be, a bad 3rd down offense versus a bad 3rd down defense. So that'll be the fun part to watch. But I'm probably, just coming from a Patriots fan, I've watched other games, and excluding that Vikings game, which was a great game for Mac, but it's not exactly the strongest defense. The Vikings don't exactly have the strongest defense in the league. The Pats, like you said, have been abysmal on 3rd down, and I can't imagine them, doing remotely well against a semi-competent defense like the Bills, even if they're missing some guys. I can't really envision that, judging from a lot of and it starts with play calling. A lot of the play calling I've seen has been really hard to understand pretty much every game. And, if you're not getting the right plays in, and I don't trust Matt Patricia, if you're not getting the right plays in, you're not going to get the right results in. And it kind of starts at Matt Patricia, and it doesn't help. Mac Jones has been struggling probably, I don't know the exact stats, but on third down as well. But if I had to guess, I'd say the Bills are going to come out on top in that third down battle just because of how I've seen the Patriots play in the past. And the Bills, they have a semi-competent defense, unlike the Vikings, which have kind of been crummy.
Yeah, I want to actually ask you another question that piggybacking off what you said about Matt Patricia. Obviously, you go from Josh McDaniels to Matt Patricia. At least I talked about how my old roommate was a Pats fan, right? He still is a huge Pats fan. He hated Josh McDaniels, and now it's like he hates Matt Patricia even more. So, a little fun question: who would you rather have as your offensive coordinator, Matt Patricia or Josh McDaniels?
Yeah, I mean, so McDaniels, the kind of ongoing joke with McDaniels was how passive he was on long third downs. There was a lot of times when he would, be running it on like 3rd and 10 and 3rd and 8, and it's what kind of pissed the fan base off. But if I had to choose, I would have to definitely go with McDaniels because, I wrote a piece on it, but like Patricia is not even, it's hard to kind of watch sometimes because he just makes these mind-boggling decisions where you're kind of like, why doesn't Belichick take over? Because this guy obviously doesn't really know how to run run an offense. And both, in my opinion, were, a little average. I think McDaniels did well with Brady, obviously. But I would have to definitely choose McDaniels because at least he knows how to run a competent offense, unlike Patricia, who's had one of the worst in the league, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, I think it's funny that I was thinking the whole time I knew you were going to pick McDaniels. I knew you were.
Yeah.
But I was thinking just because, obviously if Patricia had Brady, McDaniels had Matt Jones, I think it would even, I think coaching is a big part of stuff. But when it comes to Tom Brady and Mac Jones, I don't think really coaching matters that much. I think whoever's in there at Brady, they're going to have a really good offense.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, I do actually want to ask about the Vikings game real quick because obviously there were some calls late in the game that were questionable and not many fans were happy about it. So I just want to ask your thoughts about that last touchdown that Hunter Henry got called incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even as a Bills fan, I can say that to me looked like a touchdown. I mean, it looked like it's ridiculous that we still to this day don't know what a catch is in the NFL. So what do you think about that play? Obviously, it's not something that you'd want to have to relive, but what do you think about the play? And if the play stands, it's a touchdown. What do you think the outcome of that game is?
Well, I mean, I tweeted something out, and it got actually a lot of likes, but I think this kind of just comes back, obviously. So I'll go to your question. If that catch stands, I believe the Pats lost by a touchdown. I think that was the final score. So it's going to be theoretically, it's going to be a tie game. But the refs, again, this might sound, that's coming from a Pats fan, this might be a little biased, but the refs on that kick return, the refs missed what I saw as a pretty blatant, it might have been a block in the back or a holding on Kyle Duggar. So there's that cost us 7 points as well. But I thought the call was ridiculous. I think, and people were coming back, I don't know if y'all remember, to that Jesse James catch against the Pats. And personally, I think both of those were probably touchdowns. And it's kind of, like you said, it's kind of ridiculous that officiating is still having these problems, especially they have so much technology. They have so much manpower in New York. They have so many people that can help them with this. And they still make these calls, which in my opinion are pretty obvious calls to make.
Yeah. One more question about your injury report. Obviously, are you concerned with the run game and how explosive it can be without Harris with the 1-2 punch, or are you, still, because the Bills, run defense hasn't been great. I know they shut down Nick Chubb a couple weeks ago, but they faced a stretch where they were allowing running backs to, cruise by. So, Pierce, do you think the absence of Damian Harris will affect this offense at all?
I think it'll. Well, I mean, so Ramondre Stevenson has been the leading guy for all 13 weeks, and that's for a reason. I mean, he's so good in the pass game, he's so good in the run game, and if any of y'all are into fantasy football, his stock has risen up a lot. So, I don't think it will so like we like to use Harris. You know, he's a really great option. He's a really great running back actually, but I do think that considering all that Stevenson has showed us for this season, I'm not too worried about it. If Stevenson goes down and we're gonna have to turn to a smaller back, maybe that might turn. I'll have to look at the depth chart, but that'll get a little shaky because maybe if he gets injured, Stevenson, that'll be bad. But I'm not too worried, assuming he stays healthy, because he can lead this offense like he has through all 13 weeks.
I also have a question about your quarterback situation. Obviously, it's not so much a situation anymore, but a couple weeks ago, there was the whole Zappy. Should he be the starter? Should it be him over Mac? During that whole time, did you ever think that Zappy should be the guy? Did you think Mac was done at all? What do you think of Mac even now? Going forward? Do you think Mac is still the guy going forward?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about your quarterback situation in New England?
I mean, after watching that Packers game, I really love Zappy. He played really well against the Lions, against the Browns, and he made some really nice plays. But I think people got to think back to Mac's rookie season and throwing. I think I flipped to the 22. I think it was 22 touchdowns and like 13, 14 interceptions. It's not flattering, you know, as a veteran or as a 5-year, 6-year QB, but as a rookie, that's really promising. And I never was willing to give up on Mac. Now, if he continued to struggle and he had a negative touchdown to interception ratio by week 13, maybe it's time to look into it. But I think the Jets game, which I think he had a really underrated performance, and the Vikings game, he kind of proved to us that he can still play. And I felt like I was watching 2021, 2022 Mac in those few games because he was making a lot of throws and he came out of the bye week really strong. So I was never too worried about it, and I doubt that there will be a competition in the future unless Mac gets injured, Zappy comes out again, starts to play hot. It'll be a cycle, I bet, but I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. What do you think, AJ? Do you think were you ever part of the crew that thought New England should turn to Zappy, or did you always think Mac should be the guy there?
I like Mac. I thought he had a really good rookie year, the best out of that rookie class. Now, do I think Trevor in a better situation is probably regarded as more of a top quarterback in the league, maybe, because I think he's just so talented, and they're doing good things. They had a nice win against the Ravens last week, and Trevor, that was probably the best game of his career so far. He started with Urban Meyer, so kind of an off start, but I always liked Mac. I was never part of the Zappy bus. I think Mac had a good rookie year. I think he had a tough start to this season, and Zappy came in and played well, and I think it happens once in a while where even Mike White, like I think Mike White had a great game, but I think he'll come back down to earth. Like I don't think that's the player he's going to be week in, week out once, defenses are getting film on him and, seeing how he plays going from Zach Wilson to Mike White is a difference for defenses to adjust to. But yeah, I've always liked Mac. I think he does his job. He's serviceable. He's a, average starter in this league. I think his athleticism is what will never put him on that top tier just because he can't, extend plays that well, compared to other guys in this league. But besides that, yeah, I think Mac will be around for many years. Even after his rookie year, I said he could win a Super Bowl if their defense with Belichick plays the way they do, and they get a wide receiver out there with Jacoby Myers. I think Aguilar is good, but I think they could upgrade their wide receiver position. But no, I like what they got going, but it might be a longer process for Mac Jones to get to that Super Bowl caliber team, because the Bills are in the division, and it's going to be tough, going against the Bills and Dolphins every single year. So yeah,
I mean, I think we could see Mac definitely in like a Jimmy G type of thing where he makes a Super Bowl and he's kind of an unflattering quarterback, but he's kind of carried by the guys around him. And I think if the Pats do it right, they can stick with Mac and just build around him, and they can craft a Super Bowl team with that way.
I will say I do like Jacoby Myers, and I do like Tyquan Thornton. Obviously, it's a small sample size for Tyquan Thornton. I do think that he has the tools to take another step as maybe a wide receiver 2. Don't know if he makes a huge step, he could be a wide receiver 1, but I think he could be a solid wide receiver number 2. And I do believe this is a Jacoby Myers free agent year. He is going to be a free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah.
What do you think about that whole situation? Obviously, the Pats, I do think, have a decent amount of money going into the free agency.
Third most.
Huh?
Third most.
Third most. So you have the third most cap space. Do you think they re-sign Jacoby? Do you think he goes somewhere else? Because I have seen a couple Bills fans saying, "Hey, bring Jacoby in as the new slot guy next year." Obviously, we're in a completely different cap situation because Allen's contract, I do believe, kicks in next year. So what do you think about Jacoby Myers? Do you think they'll give him an extension? And do you want a big extension for him?
Yeah, well, if I was the GM, I'd extend him as soon as possible because if you're watching this this offense, there's two guys that stand out. It's Stevenson and Myers, and if you take one of those away, if you take Myers away, you kind of eliminate the entire passing game. And unless you find a replacement for him, it's gonna be the offense is gonna be worse next year. So I would extend him. I was trying to talk to some people who knew about that, but I couldn't get anything. It's gonna be a revolving story, but for sure they should extend him. Now, do I think they'll extend him? That's kind of a different story because they've been really, really weird in how they draft and how they negotiate contracts. So if I'm Myers and Myers is going to have a lot of options for, there's going to be a lot of teams out there that want him, especially after the year he's having this year. So I want him to stay. I would extend him. It's the best move for the team. It's the best move for Mac, but I probably view it as unlikely just because of how these kind of situations have been handled in the past. Like Bill is not afraid to let dudes walk. And I don't agree with it, but it's kind of it's weird. And it's kind of how the Pats roll. But I'm not too confident that he'll get extended just because, again, Bill's not a big money spender, especially on guys coming out of their rookie contract.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for us going into this game, going into this week?
Well, I was just a little curious. Like, what did y'all? Because I knew from the stats Allen had some red zone troubles, but from y'all, what were the origins of that troubles? Because I didn't, I haven't really been able to watch any Bills games.
For me, it's come down strictly to play calling, and I've said it a lot. I think, and look, yes, Allen's elbow's been hurting him. He's tried to force some throws, but even in the Green Bay game, like there was some red zone interceptions. One of them, it looked like he was even throwing away, and Jair just went down and got it. It just seems, and to me, there's always a direct correlation between red zone success and play calling. You can see it very clearly. I think with a lot of teams that if they get into the red zone and the play calling is not there, they're going to struggle. So for me, it's been the play calling because it just seems like it's a revolving door with the same plays over and over again, with not much really going. I mean, it's just like spread five guys out. Let's have everybody run the same five. I mean, you even heard it after the Vikings game when the Bills played the Vikings. Pat Peterson said Davis runs 3 routes every game. He said that's it. He knows what 3 routes are coming or 2 routes. And it's just that, to me, when you have a team saying, hey, we know what's coming, and then the same week after that, or the week before that too, they say the same thing. It's just that's really my thing, is just I need to see better play calling, and it hasn't even been that bad. It's just inconsistent. It's inconsistent, and it seems like it's the same. Like once we kind of get into a rut, it's the same thing. Let Allen go back. Let him try to do everything. That's why I said I'm even happy to see that we're starting to run the ball more, because that's the number one thing that I think needs to happen in order to get this offense going again. And I know Dorsey, he's a rookie coordinator, but if you ask me if we had Brian Dable still as our offense coordinator, I think we're 10-1, 11-0 at this point, honestly, if you ask me. But AJ, what do you think?
I'll tell you why Josh Allen is turning the ball over, because it's himself. Josh Allen has been careless with the ball in situations. Chiefs game, miscommunication with McKenzie, a couple red zone just throwaway balls, kind of like what Pat Mahomes did last week. Just like just trying to make the hero play. And then I can name almost every pick that he's thrown, besides the Gabe Davis. Obviously, the defense knew it was coming, but like I've said before, he had Singletary up on the check down, take the 10 yards, take an extra second to throw. You had a pocket. And then you go back to like the Jets game when we lost by 3. Those throws, I mean, the Dawson Knox throw is not play calling. You did, like maybe if he called a different route, but you can always say that. I think Dawson Knox was not open at all. The defender was right there. He threw it right to him. And the other one to Sauce Gardner was just Sauce Gardner knew where to be. Allen misread the field. Wasn't play calling, just misread it. And, he ended up getting picked. But obviously the play calling has to be better. I'm not putting it all on Allen, but at the same time I am, because he's the one making the decisions. And there's, if you watch the film, there's even times last week when Allen is so, it seems like, afraid because of the offensive line, which he's one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league and least pressured according to PFF. So I don't know if it's not just he's nervous because of his injuries or whatnot, but he's just seeming to get out of the pocket more and try and dance around when there's been multiple times on film where there's been guys wide open underneath. He's not taking the easy throw. So he just got to get his confidence back. I think a big game on national television against Belichick's the perfect, game to do that against a division opponent. So that's why I think, this is going to be a big game for him. And I think he's going to go back to, he's a Brett Favre kind of player. He's streaky. And I think he's going to, start heating up a little bit and, playing really good football.
Yeah, I was about to say that, AJ, actually. Like that's the thing also I've seen with a lot of Bills fans is they've been freaking out over these interceptions when Bills fans do have to accept Allen is going to be more of a Favre quarterback than anything else. Like, he's a gunslinger. He's going to go back there, try to make plays. And yeah, he's going to turn the ball over sometimes, but that's the way he plays, right? He's a go for it all, give it your all, and sometimes it will hurt us. But I think the red zone, that's the thing when it comes back to the red zone, because that was, I think, the last time of his interceptions are really bad. But when it comes to the red zone, that's my biggest thing is there's just no switch up with really what we're doing in the red zone. It seems like, let's have Diggs run a 7-yard curl route back shoulder to him or Gabe Davis over the middle. So that's really my thing. I don't know. Obviously, Pierce, you said you couldn't really see a lot of Bills games. But yeah, that would be my answer. You got any other Bills?
Pierce, after the show, I want you to look up a video highlight. Josh Allen interceptions, and you can tell me whether it's play calling or Josh Allen.
Okay, I'll make sure to do that.
You got any other questions about the game or the Patriots or what we think about anything, Pierce?
Not really. I mean, not really. I mean, coming into the season, I wasn't too sold on the Pats making the playoffs. Sometimes I was, and sometimes I wasn't. It was kind of a fluid thing. So I'm probably excited to go into this game. If they lose, it's fine because they lost to the Bills. If they win, it's great because they beat the Bills. So I think most of the pressure is on the Bills here, and I'm excited to watch the game. I don't really have any other questions unless y'all have any for me.
Predictions?
Yeah, I think that's the last thing. Prediction, what we think about.
I'll go last. So you guys, whoever wants to go first, and then.
I mean, I guess I'll go. We'll go Bills fan, Pats fan, Bills fan. So I'll go Pierce, then you can go, and then AJ will go.
I'm not a Bills fan. I'm not a Bills fan.
Oh, I'm gonna go with. Oh boy. 33-22 Bills. I think it will be a close game till the fourth quarter. So,
all right.
What do you think, Pierce?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go.
You can pick the Pats. You can pick the Pats. Don't be afraid.
No. I think I'll go 31-17 Bills. I don't think Pats are gonna get over 20. I don't think Pats defense. I want to see them rebound after last week, but it's looking a little bit. It's not looking good, especially from what I saw last week.
Yeah, I'm going to go 27-17 Bills. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think the offense is going to come out at a better pace. I think Allen's going to take care of the ball this week. I think he's going to play well. It might not be the most flashy game, but I'm telling you, we're going to be talk. I think Allen this could be one of the best games of his season, just for the setup. Getting a little rest. His elbow's back. He's getting reps in practice. The offense is healthy. The only thing I'm worried about is Quessenberry with Judon, but Judon's going to get a sack or two probably, and you know that. You just got to hold on to the ball, protect that elbow, and Allen can make plays on second, third, and long. So I'll go Bills 27, Pats 17. I don't think the Pats offense has enough firepower, especially with Emmons coming back, Poyer out there, Trey White getting more reps, Elam coming back, and the way Ed Oliver and that interior D-line's playing with Russo and Epinesa also on the way back. This is the healthiest this defense has been, even with Von out. Still the healthiest this defense has been since week 5, week 4.
Yeah. Well, it should be a good game either way. I mean, games at Gillette are always great. Maybe we'll see a John Brown sighting if they pull him up for the game Thursday. I mean, last time John Brown was in New England, he had a great game. He had a great time in New England, but maybe we'll see it. Who knows? we do have a prediction here from Chris. We got 27 to 20 Bills. That's close. I mean, look, I honestly think it will be a good game. I think it'll be a good game. I think we'll see a lot of great plays. I think it will be close at least till the fourth quarter. But yeah, I mean, any last words, Pierce, before we end it?
Well, I'm just gonna warn y'all. I wouldn't be surprised if the Pats score 21 points just off of field goals at the rate that they've kicked. I think Nick Folk is like top 3 in the league for field goals and bottom half, maybe even bottom 10 or 3 in the league for extra points. So we've been kicking a lot more field goals than we should. We're really we're not aggressive at all on fourth and short. Be prepared to see a lot of field goals unless they channel some inner magic, because that's how it's been mostly for all the season, excusing the Vikings game, of course.
And we are a bend don't break defense, so I could see that happening too, where we let them get in the field goal range, but not don't let them score the touchdown.
And be prepared for a couple hurdles too.
AJ, any last words before we head off?
Yeah, this is just a big game for the Bills. I think after that Lions game, I was happy, even though it was a win. A win's a win. I think they're on the right track. I think they have the right pieces in place, the culture, the belief in themselves. They've won the division the last couple of years. And I think this Lions game I could equate to the Bucs game from last year that they lost. I think this Lions game was a turning point for this team, and they showed a lot of fight. They came together, and with a injury-ready defense that's only going to get healthier, losing Von during the game, and the offense finally getting their feet on the turf and playing ball. I think they're looking good.
Yeah, I think I'll say I think it's gonna be a good game. Like I've said, I'm just hoping no injuries on either side. But it's just it's been one of those seasons for at least Bills fans up here. So I don't know how it's been for the Pats, but it has been brutal injury wise this whole season. So I'm just hoping everybody stays healthy. No major injuries. If somebody does get hurt, it's a little bang up, and then they're back in the game. But Pierce, thanks for joining us. It's at Pat's Downey, correct?
Yeah, DOW.
At Pat's Downey. So go check him out. Go check out everything he's been putting out there. Thanks for joining us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'm starting to like Pats fans ever since Brady left. So,
all right.
But yeah. As always, for everybody watching, as always, go Bills, and we will see you guys next week.